Hello everybody, this is here with another top 10. It's been a while since I did this, but for people who saw my previous, one of my previous top 10 suggested card for Hearthstone, I'm really enjoying this one because I really like fan-made content, such as there's many suggested cards on the internet. I saw some of them was really cool, which is the reason why I did this. But then I will like maybe I should make another one, but then I get another better idea. How about if instead of suggesting card, I can suggest a gaming mode because right now we have only few mods and they feel all really similar and they really don't bring anything too much new on the table, but with exception of Tavern Barrel, but this appear only once for the week, and sometimes they're great, sometimes they're just super boring, and I don't like them at all. So I decided like to do one my top 10 suggested game modes for Hearthstone, which some of them I'm pretty proud. I really believe they can enhance the gaming experience. Unlike my top 10 suggested card where I basically create an image a card, I obviously cannot do this. So I try and like do something which give you an idea how this work, or maybe I just talk about stuff. So because there is not too much how I can demonstrate stuff, maybe I can eventually switch between cards and certain modes and give you like example how things work. So it's maybe a little confusing. So yeah, top 10 suggestions for Hearthstone gaming mode. So let's do this. Number 10. Okay, so I want to start with the mod which I like to call Tandem. So basically idea of the Tandem is kind of like this. Basically you not this thing. How about this thing? Why not? Basically, you pick your class as usual, but you also pick some of your friends, and basically you and your friends basically team up and create basically this some sort of alliance where basically um, you and your friends like there's basically obviously this need a basically different interface. Basically you can see your card and your friend have see his or see like his card, but at the same time you if you like there will be some a little icon somewhere here, I don't know, somewhere where this place, how about somewhere here, when you click on it you see like which cards your friend have, and basically you and your friend basically switching, which basically mean now I am on turn. So next is my enemy, then it's my ally, which is basically my friend, then it's his ally, and then we going on another turn. It is a little complicated, but it's really a lot about strategy, and I'm sure like it is good having some competition, but why I cannot team up with my friend? Why I can just fight them? I think sometimes team up can be just as fun like normal play. I know it's a little complicated, like idea. It is actually a little weird, and it's probably be a little time consuming. But of course, your friend can play only long as like both of the players must be destroyed. So I think there is potential. I think this is something which can be done, and how effective your strategy is how well you know your friend and how well two of you can cooperate. Like for example, I can like let's say play right now. I play as a hunter, so I can go the face like normal hunter, and my ally can play let's say warrior who with the punch of like towns. So basically, his job is protect me with the towns and abilities, and I going to face. Or he can play as a healer, and he can heal me. And there's just way too many strategies because right now you can play one class. That's it. But if two people can actively cooperate, that can bring the strategy in a whole new level, and I think it will be great more. So yeah, and then let's continue. Number nine. Okay, so can you tell what is strange about this deck? I mean, except the fact it is completely randomly generated. Well, I tell you, there's no spells, no spell at all. So that is basically another suggestion of mine. Basically, deck or more specifically, mode which is called minions only, which means you can play exactly normal way, but you cannot use any spells. You can add only minions and nothing else. I mean, you can still get some spells by using some cards which can give you spells. For example, um, RT for Fun or Foreign, and I'm sure there is more card which can give you some extra spells. You can get the spells this way, but you cannot get like spells specifically for your deck. So you basically need to go minions only. I think this is something which can encourage people to do little bit different type of deck, and it's not anything like super original, but I believe it can add a little bit of variety, and people need to be a little more careful how they make their deck. As I say, it's nothing special. It's a small thing, which is the reason why it is so low on this list. But yeah, minions only. Number eight. So my another suggestion is a mod which I like to call a training camp. So basically, if you play this mod, then you play only against AI, and you can actually, despite the fact you play against AI, you can normally finish your quest, and you are rewarded with 10 gold every time you win. Not every three victories, but every single victories. But there is a catch. You can play this mod only long as your hero is a level 10 or lower. So why is this here? Basically, my philosophy is this. Basically, for people who are new in the game and they really don't want to spend money for getting cards, or maybe they don't have money, or maybe they don't have money right now, or maybe they think it's not worth it. That's possible. I myself invest only a little bit in the Hearthstone. Most of the time, most of the card which I earning, because this is something which I like to do. But some people maybe don't. So uh, this is basically excellent. Basically, people who join game right now, they are like super new in the game, and they literally have no cards at all. For them, it's a perfect opportunity to get some like high rewards early in the game, and have cards basically for winning, basically being able to score some extra victories and score some extra gold, which give them to some cards to start. And I think this is excellent for a new player. So long as your hero, you getting basically increased rewards, you playing only against computer, which is super easy, and you can finish your quest here. So the whole thing is like really beneficial. It can boost your deck, and you can get some extra cards really early. and you can actually probably, this is probably another reason, get even some more rewards. Like after you finish after you finish leveling up one of your characters, you get a free deck, and after you finish like with all characters, you get even more decks. I believe that kind of thing is be excellent for new players, which are just like super new in the game, because normally, like, if you want a dex, then you need some gold. If you want a gold, you must win, which is something which is very difficult to do because you don't have a cards, because you don't have a gold. Can you see the paradox here? I think this can solve the problem, and there should be something for newcomers. I think Blizzard can be like a little more generous for new players, because they have some serious disadvantage compared to players which play like for very start. Because these players can have tons of cards. Like I did some like really rough calculation. You can get something between 100 and 200 decks per year, which is actually a lot of cards. So people who are new in the game, they still can win if they play against other players, because this is how this game works, because it's so randomized. But at the same time, this be like better, good for new players, and it can help with existence for other decks, because it'll be like some really unfair with some other modes which I wanna suggest these new players have like really low chance to win, because how these decks are made. So yes, training camp. Number 7. So my another suggestion is also in this area right here, and it is basically mod where you can create deck, and in this deck you can put any cards in any game. It doesn't matter if you own the card or not, and you can do same thing for a computer, but you can use this deck only in this mode specifically, because this is a mode which I like to call testing mode. Basically, sometimes what happens to me several times, because I'm actually dysgraphic. So if you don't know what dysgraphy is, it's just basically a weird dysfunction where I can read without problems, but if I wanna write something, that is I'm doing like mistakes, and sometimes even I don't do a letter or something. But sometimes I can miss a word, or I can like miss a letter, and the word have different meanings. And what happens to me several times, I don't realize that is word, and I create a card, and then I realize this card is something completely else than I want, and it's basically but the was the like really wasting of the dust, which is very precious. And or sometimes there are another situation. There is a card, but you are not sure if the card work away which you want, and you just need some space for testing. You even need to test how well it's work a bit against like AI, or even maybe like adventures if you own them. So yeah, I think this is a really useful. It's not actually a mod; it's more like a feature. But I believe it's really like useful, because if you can do like all kinds of testing without being nervous, like is this card work for me or not. And if you get like really good idea, and you have some deck which you have feeling like it's worked really well, then you can go like back in a normal game and make it like a legitimate deck. But in this deck, you are basically free to create use any card regardless you have it or not, and use them in this mode only for sake of testing. Because I think game really need this feature, because like I said, sometimes you may think some cards is good, and then you find out it's actually not as good as you think, and it's better to do some testing first before you can like do it legitimately. Number 6. Okay, my another suggestion go for my deck, which I named Druid Rush, because this is exactly how, well, almost exactly how this mod is named, a rush. So basically, idea of this mod, you play completely normal way as you usually do, and there's one difference compared to normal mode, and that is with the rush mode, with the normal
Hexa
gameplay.
versus Malfurion.
You basically starting with the.
Let the hunt
Oh
begin.
yeah, just shut up. Let me continue. I don't even care. Okay, with the normal mode, you starting with the one crystal, and then you get one crystal every following turn. This is how normal games work. With Rush, however, it's basically doing this going twice as fast, which means you start with the two crystals, and in every following turn, you get two more extra crystals, which means with first turn, you have two crystals. With second, you have four. And in a five turns, you get like 10 crystals, which means this mode is much more fast paced than the normal mode. You basically can completely ignore
Bring out
the
your
one
dead. Job
crystal
done.
cards because they basically have no roles here. It's basically almost pointless to have. Well, maybe with exception some spells. There is a few spells, few one crystal cards which are actually really useful, really strong. But with exception of those, you can basically pretty much ignore one cost card with this mod. I think this mod will be fun because it will be like, well, rush. It'll be like super fast because you mana go up like super crazy and you can play much more high cost cards because like even if you don't have a card to play in the first turn, in second turn you have four crystals, which means it is really unlikely you don't have the cards to play. And I think this mod could be fun. Like my original idea was like starting with the 10, but then I was like, maybe that is a little too fast. But I think this is a nice balance. I think will be a really nice mod, and I know there is many people who like want to play like really quickly, really aggressively. So for them, this will be probably a good idea. I personally probably don't play this mod if exists, but maybe I do. I'm not sure, but I think it's definitely be like interesting because you can take advantage from this and make your mod slightly different. I think that's a good idea. Number 5. Okay, so my another suggestion is kind of like you remember when I suggested tandem mode where you can basically team up with your friend and basically create this. So my another mode is basically called fusion, and what fusion is basically do, it's kind of like normal game mode, except instead of pick the deck. You can pick not one but two decks. So it is kind of like fusion, kind of like tandem, except you basically have both cards decks. You basically using like two decks in the same time. I think this is something which you can
Hexa versus
do
Malfurion.
like take advantage
We
from
must
this and
protect the wild.
doing similar
Let
things
the
like with
hunt
this,
begin.
my already suggested mod, which is tandem, where you basically can specifically advantage from this mod and like combines two mods together. You of course have access to both hero powers, which one be like here and another like I don't know. Maybe if you right click, then you can switch, and you can basically, of course, using like only one of them unless you have some cards which allow you to do both. And the beauty of this mod
Well fought.
is
I
basically
can see.
unlike your before when you basically because sometimes like play with other people, sometimes you can form like brilliant strategy and find somebody who is like really team player, but sometimes you are not. And sometimes maybe you don't want to do this. But if you can like assemble two decks same time and make like basically make one deck from them, like think about the possibilities. Think how much things you can do with decks like this. I mean, the sky's is the limit. There's so many combination if you can like combine basically two decks together. For example, uh, have my necro hunter. Where is he? Oh, here is he. So this is how this deck works, and I'm really happy with this deck. But for people who saw my deck maker, there was a time where I actually using Necro Shaman because he have quite a few really interesting cards, which are also really used for this kind of deck. So if I be able to create basically ultimate Necro deck by combining these two together, like there is so many things which I can do with this. Like right now, the reason why I switched from Necro Hunter from Necro Shaman in the Necro Hunter because right now he have better cards for this kind of strategy. But that doesn't mean like a Shaman is bad. In fact, Shaman is great. There is actually more a situation like this. So for example, I have Battle Cry Shaman, but even if I no longer have a Battle Cry Rogue, then Battle Cry Rogue can still be pretty good Battle Cry like. So this is definitely something which provides tons of combination, tons of option. For example, as I said before, you can have I don't know, like I can combine my Heal Master, basically provide healing, and combine it with basically any deck. And there is some combinations which are specific because with this mod you basically have access to two class specific cards the same time, which can provide some really insane combination. For example, imagine if I combine Priest and Mage. If I do that, then Priest is not like exclusively for spells, but he have lots of really useful spells. Now imagine if I go with the Priest and I pick this card, but at the same time my second choice is a Mage. So if I could basically combine uh, this card and this card, which are both class specific cards, and suddenly I can get some insane boost only because I combine these two cards specifically. This is just a quick example. I'm pretty sure there is much more like really ridiculous combinations which you can create, and this mod provides tons of options. Like it is insane. If you think like now that you have lots of options, then this is you can go totally crazy with this mod. And I think it's a great idea. I really totally wanna see this mod. Absolutely. Number four. Okay, this another mod is kinda motivated by something which I mentioned before in my previous videos. This mod, which I like to call Rebel. So basically, how this mod works, you basically game telling you like what's its most used card, which are most frequently used cards in the game, and then these cards are basically banned in this mode. You cannot use them in this mode, which means you are forced to use all other cards. This kind of mode is basically because I'm frustrated by fact I playing like people who using the same type of decks over and over again. I'm so tired to like see decks which looks like this. I'm so tired of decks which looks like this. I mean, you can be so creative with this game, but people just doing these decks. This is like most boring deck which I can imagine. I mean, yes, it is effective, it really is, but at the same time, I'm so tired to see this. Like, how many times this deck been used against me? And I think this mod, where you basically are quite literally exactly what this mod suggests, a rebel. You basically go against a normal do. You basically do exactly opposite thing. You are basically forced to use cards which are less frequently used cards, and of course these cards like be changed, let's say every week. So you need to be like really creative, and you need to improvise to create some interesting deck. I think this can provide more additional like contents and make like basically game more entertaining for people like me who really don't want to see playing people like same type of decks over and over again. This can be like something fresh and new, which really give people like new way to play. And this is exactly how I imagine new way to play. Okay, not not this crap. Okay, this is completely pointless, completely stupid, and I hate it. So no wild, almost specifically this thing. Sorry, not this thing. So yeah, because standard is like really stupid mod, and I hate it. So yeah, Rebel number three. Okay, we going to my a little more favorite ones. So this mod, which is a mod which I like to call a strategy master. So as you know, there's one thing which I really hate in Hearthstone, and that is the extremely randomized nature of the game, which I believe this is how things can work with this mod. Basically, this mod is super about strategy and actual tactic. There is a little bit of randomness because starting cards are randomly generated, and some cards have some randomly generated effects by themselves. For example, what is this card? Um, this one. Random card. So there's still a little bit of randomness, but basically what this mod do is if you draw a card, then you draw a card with exactly same order as you add them in the deck. Which means if I place this card as a first card in my deck, that is like it's priced right here, and that would be like little number. Like normally if you basically add like more cards, then they're basically like done in an order like low cards are up and stronger are down, and as you move from here they get stronger and stronger. Instead, in this mode, you see either a number which basically telling you how you add cards. But if I add, let's say, this card as the first card in my deck, this card will be first card which I draw, unless it's already in my hand because I don't know. Maybe it's I get these starting cards and the card was already here. With exception of this situation, I can literally like decide which card I draw first, which I draw second, etc., etc. And this is the super like this mode will be extremely difficult to play because it's super deep and it's required a perfect knowledge of the cards, ability to predict what your opponents can do, and you cannot no longer use these predefined decks where basically you like create some basic strategy because it's no longer randomized. You cannot pick like I don't know this deck on this deck. No, you must create your own and you must pay attention which card you have, but also which in order you're placing them. This is super important. On one side, you can say, okay, this is OP, but keep in mind, your opponent can do exactly the same thing. Which means, with this mode, game is no longer random. It's about tactic, it's about strategy, and if you lose, then you didn't lose because your opponent was more lucky. You lose because your deck sucks and you create bad deck, which means you have no right to complain. This will be like for people who are most skilled and most basically strategy expert, and it's a mode where planning and strategy actually matter. You need to be like prepared, like which card you play, and you need to be a little more, I would say, careful with your strategy. There's more way to play, but it is not too difficult to like plan your moves like 3 or 4 turns ahead, but create entire deck this way. This is something which were people who actually thinking about their decks, people who actually do some planning and strategy. Like let me give you example, okay? Let me give you oh come on, really? Okay, let me give you a perfect example once again with my Netrunner. So this is deck which is really heavy on that level, right? Which means with this deck I can unleash some really serious hell if I get a right card in the right time. For example, I can have like cards such as let's say this one, which have really powerful death rattle effect. And if I combine this card with, let's say, this card and this card and this card by itself, it's strong, but it can unleash additional Karen Bonhoff. I mean Ben Bonhoff, but this card can actually uh, give me opportunity to make do. If I have more cards in the board, then I can like do this card and activate all of them. So if I have, let's say, this and I don't know this and this on the board, and then I can play things like this, then I can unleash a real hell, like literally. The problem here is this can happen only if I'm lucky enough to have this this and this on the board, but at the same time I get this card, which is completely luck based. It's really unlikely this happen. It sometimes happen, and I can be like ridiculously. This deck can be ridiculously powerful, but sometimes I start the game and I get like this or this, like in my turn one, and it is pretty much impossible win with deck where I can purposely and carefully choose which card I get. I think this can get a strategy and things, especially things such as championship, which right now they are nothing but a glorified random number generator. It's ridiculous. Like nobody, I'm so surprised there are some people who take this seriously, because this is something which really make me laugh like a lot, because this is not a real championship. But if this mode be used as a primary method of play in the championship, that will be a little different story, because then I be probably even interested about watching them on YouTube, because I be like curious, like these people trying to like outsmart each other, and they actually can pick cards which then use, and that would be so cool. I mean, I myself be like really try like go in the championships myself, because I know I have actually chance to win if my deck is better than deck of my opponent, and if I plan my strategy well enough, I can actually win. Not through luck, but with my intelligence, thanks to my planning, thanks to the fact I just have good deck. And this is something which really, really miss. This is something which Hearthstone really need. I think this is mod which it's not my favorite. It's not top of this list, but it is really close because, like I said, biggest weakness, biggest weakness of Hearthstone right now. Three biggest weakness is A, some broken cards. B, all people playing exactly same way, which is boring. And C, randomness of the game. Some of these mods are dealing with the fact of the playing same way over again, but this one is much focused on like actual strategy. So yeah, Strategy Master is a mod which I think Hearthstone need a lot. Oh my god, I want this mod exist so much because this can like bring championships and actual strategy in a whole new level. And it's also this is actually a reason why I mentioned before this training camp before, because if players which I knew like trying to play a strategy mode, they are basically screwed. Because only way how they can win right now is they are lucky. But because in a strategy master luck is no longer thing, and they basically cannot win this because they simply don't have the cards which are good enough to compete with a bunch of epic and legendaries which other players have, which is another more reason at a training camp as well. I think these two modes are kinda need exist together because they need each other, kinda. So yeah, strategy master. Number two. Okay, we going the close to number one, and mode which I wanna suggest is what I can possibly suggest better than Strategy Master. Well, it's basically mode which I like to call custom, and with custom mode, it's custom is basically kind of like Brawl, except you know how every time on it's Brawl, then you have some really specific rules. So with the mod which is called custom, you basically it's kind of like Bravo, except you can choose which rules are like used in this mod. Like you can even choose like multiple of these rules at the same time. So if you wanna, for example, this, you can do this. Do you wanna call it with a summoners competition? You can. You can basically make your custom Bravo, and you can even combine several rules together, which can create some ridiculous situation. And people can do kind of things where they are basically like, um, I choose like a specific rules. I search for a game with a specific set of rules, or I go like with a random person because I feel like really confident with my deck, and I want to challenge somebody with some ridiculous rule, and I want to see how well my deck do despite these rules. And of course, person who created rules is advantage because that the person create the deck that the rules, and its deck is probably built around these rules, so it has advantage. So that will be definitely interesting. So yeah, I think this kind of mod can provide lots of creativity and make game a little more interesting, and because it provides so much easy. As I said, Bravos is good, but the problem with the Bravos is A, they appear only once for a week, and B, they not every time is good. For example, this one sucks. This one is just another excuse to do something completely randomized, and I hate I basically hate almost every time when bravos are where you basically cannot create your deck and you can either pick your class or go like directly. That is most of the time it's just some sort of random enemy. They always Blizzards always every time when they do this they do something which is kinda excused, but most of the time it's just the same thing, just more random crap, and I hate this. So give us a little more freedom to choose our Bravos Blizzard because I think this is something which is another thing which Hearthstone really need. I know it's probably a little difficult to implement this thing, but I think this can be great addition for a game. Number one, and finally we are here in my number one. So what is my number one? Well, you know what is one of the most entertaining thing which I saw in a game for like really long time? Well, obviously it's adventures. They are awesome. They are basically like I believe Naxxramas and Blackrock Mountain I make with it. Oh, but the Karazhan and Elite of Explorers I actually buy, and I think I buy all following because I think these are much more worth of my money. They are not longer randomized. They are not longer like they have some sort of story, and I really like this kind of thing. So basically, what is suggesting for my final suggestion for number one mod, which I totally want, is basically custom adventures. Give us some sort of editor, just like how you did with the StarCraft, Warcraft 3, StarCraft 2, and other games. Give us an editor. Let us make our own custom adventure. Because with this, you can create your own boss, you can create some old strategies. Besides, Blizzard did a lot of work, and there are some cards, like, I don't know, let me give you an example. How about
We've got the first piece.
how about
Now we gotta
this?
get out of
Okay,
here
why
before
the
we get
hell not?
squished.
Why the hell not? Like this. So my point here is
Anduin versus the
basically,
collapsing temple.
yeah, whatever. Just do it already.
The light
Okay,
shall bring victory.
why the hell not?
Collapsing ceiling and monsters everywhere. Hurry up!
No,
Hey,
this
a
is not the
glowing
one that
pool.
I meant.
Wanna check it out?
You don't have time for that.
Well, just keep going. Damn it! Not this thing.
Hey, a bit of spikes.
Whatever.
Oh, that did not look like fun.
I don't even care. Just
That boulder's
continue.
huge.
Damn
Get out of
it.
the way.
Okay, this is what I'm looking for. So, can you see this card right here? This is really interesting card. It is really powerful card. Not only because it's really cheap, but what Blizzard basically do art for this card and noises. And that's nice, except the problem is, even if they work to create this card, the card is used just here, just with this one single adventure right here. Which I mean, it's nice, but it's kind of
You have
wasting
best.
it. If Blizzard give us ability to create an own adventures where we can combine like normal cards, which we actually no, we don't. I don't think we actually necessarily need all these cards, but if we can like combine a traditional card and these cards from these adventures, and we can basically create our own custom adventures. I think that would be great. I mean, I personally like mess with the editors in the past, and I was really like it really was very entertaining for me at one time, and I really love like doing this. And you can go crazy and create some ridiculous things, and people can basically like beat you to your adventure, and maybe you be rewarded if you create really good one, or people can be rewarded if you beat your adventure. Like I don't know, something which is like really um and or even you can even then maybe even don't need to be like some sort of reward. Maybe you can like win some specific cards which can be used but only for adventures or something. I don't know. I mean, there's so much things which you can do if you have option to create your own adventures. Like some people can be really creative, and if you see like some other creatives games, what people do like with the I don't know StarCraft 2 editors, that is ridiculous. What how much it can be done, and if people can do same thing here, that can give us so much content here. I mean, that's something which is great, and it can be like really also good for, as I said before, for people who like I don't know, have not too much cards and then still need some reward. I think this is something really great. I myself probably spend with the editor more time than with actual game because this is kind of my thing. But yeah, some people like play adventures and some people enjoying the creating them. So I think this is something which is be like really great thing for adventures in for Hearthstone. It can give us so much content. It's going to give us so much variety. Some things, so much things to do. I think it's like really great idea, and this is something which I really want badly. So, Blizzard, please, you give us editor for StarCraft and Warcraft, and that's actually all games we have editor. But yeah, please give us editor for for Hearthstone, and let us create our custom adventure. We absolutely need that. I mean, hell, you are like busy with the fixing things and making new cards. With this, you can take a break and we can make some contents by ourselves. It's good news for you, isn't it? So yeah, these were my top 10 suggestions for new gaming modes. If you like these modes, or you feel like you have anything to say about, please leave some comments. I wanna see here like which of these mods you like most, or do you have idea for your own? I'm really curious, like talk about this kind of thing because I'm a freaking nerd. Um, so yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Um, so once again, I'm done, and thanks for your time, and I will see you later.